Hey, how's it going guys? It's Nate here. And the radioactive regions of post-nuclear Boston we're thrusted into for Fallout 4 are a gloomy place. However, perhaps an even gloomier experience is offered by the game's first major DLC, Far Harbor, an expansion that sends us to the dark, humid, fog-covered Mount Desert Island off the coast of Maine. The amount of content in this add-on was quite astounding, and Bethesda seems to have taken Far Harbor as an opportunity to tackle some of the criticism they received for the base game, and were sure to bombard it with an extra deep attention to detail. So today we're going to celebrate that, as we take a look at 5 of the coolest Far Harbor secrets in Fallout 4. Starting off, our first little detail will be sending us to Vault 118, located right beneath the island's own Cliff's Edge Hotel. We've talked a good bit about this vault before on the channel, so I'll try to be brief in my synopsis. It was originally built to house some of the richest, most famous, and powerful elites on the northeast coast. When the bombs fell and the vault was sealed, these aristocrats all had their brains implanted into robo-brain robots, so they could continue to live forever. By the time Fallout 4 takes place, these robots are as old as you are. When we arrive on scene, we'll discover that one robo-brain was recently murdered, leading the sole survivor on quite the investigation. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, one of the residents of this vault is a certain robo-brain named Santiago Evita. Before the bombs fell, he was a world-famous painter, and even today, somehow in his metallic body, he continues his craft. Now, Santiago is like really weird, constantly making inappropriate comments, and he seems to have idolized the concept of death, which makes him a prime suspect in that whole murder investigation I mentioned earlier. Though rest assured, he's actually innocent, and wouldn't hurt a fly. If we choose to interrogate Santiago and ask him about himself, passing a couple speech checks to ensure he talks to us for as long as possible, he'll eventually take us down to his gallery, where he has on display all of his most precious paintings, both from before and after the war. And lo and behold, it turns out that this guy, Santiago, is responsible for creating a huge number of the paintings we can find in the Commonwealth and craft in settlement mode. So many of those pictures we can find were made by him. He claims to have painted many of these works under various pseudonyms, which might explain why we've never heard of him before. But clearly we've been exposed to Mr. Avita's work for quite some time. So, a hats off to this lovely artistic man, and his obvious enthusiasm for cats. Next on our list, we're heading to a place inhabited by some, well, less civilized folk. Pinecrest Cavern is a cave located southeast, just across the lake from the Acadia Observatory. It's home to a large gang of especially mad trappers. These crazies seem to be a special kind of evil, mind you, as their home is littered with the remains of seemingly dozens upon dozens of poor souls they've claimed. But nonetheless, while I do want to draw your attention to a collection of bones, the remains I want to look at are very different. You see, towards the center of the cavern is this awkward stone/dirt pillar, and poking outside of it is a gigantic skeleton, holding onto the skulls of 2 other skeletons. Now, just to point out, the heads this thing is grabbing onto are the same size as normal human skulls. So whatever this creature was must have been absolutely huge. Could it be this island was once home to a population of giant people? Or maybe this was some other large primate, like a gorilla. Heck, I don't know, could it be Bigfoot? It seems whatever this beast was, it was consuming actual human people though. So surely it wasn't a very friendly thing to be around. With aliens, ghosts, weird helmets belonging to ancient past civilizations, Fallout 4 is no stranger to the supernatural though. So at the end of the day, while I'm very much intrigued, I'm not tremendously surprised. Whatever was once going on here, we may never know. And maybe that's a good thing. Coming in at number 3, we have not really a single detail, but a sort of entire subplot line, with a number of interweaving Easter eggs and references we can discover that are spread across Far Harbor. As we all know, in the Fallout universe, Nuka Cola is by far and away the most popular soda in all of America, and maybe even the entire planet. However, the state of Maine, where Far Harbor is located, was the exception. Here, a local beverage company named Vim managed to outcompete and outsell Nuka Cola, and residents here took a lot of pride in drinking Vim and supporting a local business over the big corporate monopoly that dominated the rest of the nation. Well, for the executives at Nuka World, this simply wouldn't do. As we learned from a number of terminals at the Vim factory, Nuka Cola made repeated offers to buy out the entire company. Each one was rebuffed. Now, in normal corporate relations, that would be the end of it. But not for Nuka Cola. The executives decided that they needed to take the state of Maine, so they tried to starve out the competition by making Nuka Cola so cheap that no one would have any reason to buy the Vim stuff. But surprisingly enough, it didn't work, and people still preferred supporting the local soda company. This is when the Nuka Cola execs began to explore some, well, more drastic actions. As we learn, again from more terminal entries, Vim delivery trucks suddenly started getting attacked by mysterious gunmen, and some days their factory would literally have rockets fired at it. They were under attack. Turns out, Nuka Cola had hired a certain man named Audrey Copland to try and get Vim to capitulate, and he pulled no punches. After bribing some of Vim's own employees to sabotage the company, Audrey built an entire armory out of the basement of a gas station nearby the Vim factory, where he began stashing various weapons he'd use against Vim delivery drivers. Eventually, on that fateful day when the Great War began and the bombs began to fall and the sirens went off, Mr. Copland decided it was the perfect time to shoot more rockets at the Vim plant, seeing as the world was descending into chaos anyway. It was during then he was presumably killed by the nuclear blast, alongside his corporate competitors. And that was effectively the end of this little rivalry. We can find Audrey's armory in Far Harbor for ourselves, and read his own terminals, where it's clear he's descending deeper and deeper into complete insanity. All in an effort to win a victory for his Nuka Cola bosses. It's a hilarious subplot, communicated entirely by notes, environmental storytelling, and old computer documents. And for players who are able to track down the dwelling of Nuka Cola's nefarious hitman, it does indeed yield some pretty nice loot. So thanks to Mr. Audrey Copland for his laughably overboard efforts to impress his bosses. For 4th spot, Old Longfellow is the most prominent, and frankly I think the only, potential follower added in with the Far Harbor DLC. He's a hilarious character that I think will quickly grow on most players. With a dry but very much existent sarcastic sense of humor and a clear moral compass, Old Longfellow is personally one of my favorites. For most of us Soul survivors, our introduction with him should be fairly linear if you get the idea. Shortly after we arrive on Far Harbor, we're told about Acadia, the synth colony towards the center of the island. But in order to get there, apparently we'll need some help. So before we even think to set off, we'll have to find Old Longfellow and ask him if he could help escort us to the location. He'll initially come off as quite reluctant, not believing if we're tough enough to handle the journey. But eventually he'll acquiesce, and the rest is history. Well, funnily enough, if you decide that you don't need Old Longfellow's help, despite giving a quest objective to go find him, you can indeed just run into the fog on your own and try and locate Acadia by yourself. Now, bear in mind this should be a difficult thing to do, particularly on your first playthrough as you won't know where Acadia even is, but you can go there by yourself, interact with Dima and those synths, and continue the storyline without his assistance. If you choose to go this route and fight your way to Acadia alone, the next time you come to Far Harbor, Old Longfellow will approach you and offer some unique dialogue, where he praises the player for being able to fight your way through the fog all without any assistance. And he'll say he's so impressed by your actions, he wants to be your follower. Take a listen.
Get to Acadia by yourself. That takes some stones.
Is it rare for someone to travel to Acadia alone?
You're damn right it is. There's all manner of nastiness in the fog. Most folks are content to cower behind the hull in Far Harbor. But not you.
Yeah, well, I am pretty awesome.
Ha! I like it. You've got more spine than most of the folks living here. Maybe we can help each other out. I'm tired of waiting around for something interesting to happen. Ain't getting any younger, that's for damn sure. Thing is, I was born and raised here. I know this island front to back. I know what's in the fog and how to deal with it. Let me run with you. I could help you find your way around. Teach you what I know. Best of all, you won't have to drink alone.
And finally, last on our list, we have a nod to one of my personal favorite movies/books. Though I honestly preferred the movie more. Nevertheless, if the player heads just a way south and a little west of Adams Spring, chances are you'll stumble upon a cemetery. But not just any cemetery. Seemingly, this is a pet cemetery. As you approach, a small legion of very unfriendly mole rats will leap from the ground and ambush the sole survivor, which is already a little strange. But as you look around, you'll find things like balls, a dog's bandana, and even a painting of a cat decorating the various tombstones. These aren't relics you use to commemorate people, they're for animals. This, of course, is all a nod to Stephen King's classic Pet Sematary, a novel that would later be adapted into a full film, which documented the experiences of a family, from Maine mind you, with a strange supernatural cemetery near their new home in the woods, that was apparently used for pets, and it's where the family buries their cat. Long story short, the cemetery in the book is like evil or something, and the cat comes back as a zombie, who's very angry. Perhaps that's what the mole rats were referencing. The story's pretty good, some houses get burned down, and ultimately the ending isn't actually a happy one, which is kinda rare for things like this. No matter, storyline aside, it seems at least one world artist at Bethesda wanted to include some references to one of his favorite tales. And with that, we are going to wrap up. 5 of the neatest little Easter eggs and secrets hidden away in Fallout 4's Far Harbor DLC. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Which of these details and/or references did you find to be the most amusing? And what facts do you know of that I've yet to cover thus far? Leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.